I know, yeah. I've thrown the order out of this room.
Hello everyone, great to see you all here. Yes, I'm Sam Booth and I'm the Chief Executive of Pro Manchester, and I'm going to be chairing the discussion today, which is about bridging the skills divide. We've already touched on this a little bit actually in one of our panels earlier on with Amy from the Green Economy and the rest of the gang there. But we're just going to delve into that a little bit deeper with some of our wonderful panel here. So I'm going to allow them to introduce themselves. So I'm going to start with you, Andy, over there, if you don't mind.
Okay, I'm Andy Lovatt. I'm Chief Executive of a training charity called Digital Advantage. Spent the last 20 years being frustrated into getting digital skills into schools. Recently we invented even the box challenge, which is displayed out in the foyer. And that's the aim to inspire the next generation of climate scientists. And we have the ambition to get that into initially every school in Greater Manchester to inspire the next generation of engineers, scientists and green economy workers.
Brilliant, thank you. Desré.
Hi everyone, it's lovely to be here with you today. I work for Accenture and leading procurement and supply chain transformation to embed sustainability, so looking at a holistic approach to the procurement function in particular, systems, processes, policies, governance, also importantly people, and what that means then as we play out into the value chain, so working with suppliers and to understanding how to looking at all considerations, so net zero but also human rights, biodiversity, whatever is unique to that particular business, to clients and their supply chain, because as we all know, every supply chain will have a unique focus.
Fantastic. Joe.
Afternoon everyone, my name's Joe, so I'm from the Greater Manchester Combined Authority, so I'm one of the principal skills managers. So many of you will be familiar with the 10 local authority areas of Greater Manchester. We receive about £150 million every year from central government to administer various skills development programmes across the city region. And the Mayor's kind of rallying cry at the moment is around technical education and sort of getting more people into things like apprenticeships and T-levels, various other bits and pieces. I'm outward facing, so I spend a lot of my time with business, a lot of my time with sector bodies, trying to understand their skills needs. And the green economy is one of the ones that we've tried to look into, but very hard to pin down, very nebulous, I suppose. So yeah, we've tried to do a piece of work on that to try and understand it a little bit better.
Great. And last but certainly not least, Luke.
Yeah, so I'm Luke Rowson. I'm Head of Sustainability and Strategy at Perfect Sense Energy. We're a commercial rooftop solar installer based just down the road in Lee. And my job is mostly our sustainability, but also trying to link that in with our product selection and how we refine our supply chain to give customers a sort of ideally net positive product from the start, so we're giving them the carbon debt. So yeah, that's who we are.
Brilliant, thank you very much. Joe, you lined me up really nicely for my first question actually, because what I wanted to ask was, we talk about skills gaps, but exactly what is that? Exactly with, what is the biggest challenge when it's coming to the green economy? Are we looking at future pipeline? Are we looking at experienced workforce? What actually does our skills gap look like within the green economy?
It's everywhere.
Everywhere.
It's a difficult bit. So just in terms of what we talk about when we talk about the green economy, we're usually talking about sort of 5 different areas, right? So the bulk of that is in infrastructure, it's construction and infrastructure. It's the sort of stuff that's been on some of the agenda this morning. So we talk about buildings, we talk about decarbonisation of buildings and transport as 2 of the big ones. So about 72% of Greater Manchester's carbon emissions come from just building and just transport. The other 3 are around energy, so obviously energy generation, we just mentioned it, and transmission, there's a big area in that sort of kind of sphere. Quite a lot around waste and recycling, the circular economy so-called, and then the natural environment as well, of course. So if we lump those 5 things together, I suppose that's what we're talking about when we talk about the kind of the wider green economy, I suppose. From a challenge perspective and from a gap perspective, I suppose, it's pretty significant in most of those areas. We're not confident that we've got enough people, enough kind of raw volume of people going into the sector, and even those that are within the sector, we reckon, to give you an example, about less than 1% of the sort of construction sector is equipped to kind of install a heat pump or perform a retrofit or whatever it might be. So we've got this big challenge around the existing workforce, particularly in construction. We've got about 86,000 people, all of whom will need some form of upskilling around sustainability and around green skills in the next few years. And then we've got the pipeline issue as well, so younger people across the city region coming into the workforce and making sure that they are prepared with things like basic stuff like carbon literacy and sort of understanding what climate change is, but also what are the technical skills that they then need to go into one of those kind of 5 subsectors.
Great, thank you. And what we talked about, Kelly talked about it earlier in the panel at the beginning, was that one of the biggest challenges was around that sort of the fear of the unknown, and therefore actually people are a bit kind of cautious about maybe entering into this sector because they don't know enough about it. Would you see that there was something that's very true, and maybe elaborate slightly on that?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's one that we need to be louder about. There's sort of many people who work within the green economy. Luke and I were just talking about outside. Do you see yourself as a green economy worker? Do you see yourself as, you know, kind of fighting a good fight in that sort of area? Many people don't. They're a construction worker, or they're tacking insulation onto people's walls, or whatever it might be. It's not that obvious for a lot of those people that they are a member of the green economy, I suppose. And particularly when we're talking about it, the perception of it in particular is still very rooted in the environment. So if you're a young person and you're coming through a school or a college and you go to your teacher or your careers advisor and you say, oh, I'm interested in an environmental career or something that helps the environment effectively, you'll be directed towards marine biology, or you'll be directed towards ecology or something along those lines, rather than scaffolder or something like that, so you can join Luke's company. So yeah, it's this perception bit that we need to crack really, and sort of get a bit louder about the opportunities that are available in this move to net zero, because they're vast, right? There's a huge kind of benefit to people who spot the opportunities early and are able to kind of move in and upskill themselves into those correct type of occupations.
Great, thank you. So Luke, from an industry perspective, can we talk about some of the challenges that you've particularly faced?
Yes, I mean, by and large, I'd probably say that the barriers that we have are actually the companies themselves, or the installers and organisations like ours. Because the industry moving at its pace, the demand for renewables is growing at such a pace that organisations just want people that are proficient from the get-go. There's a bit of apathy in terms of wanting to take an apprenticeship on, or wanting to take someone who's a graduate on. Installers are conscious of, if they don't hit a run rate, they're going to lose business, they're going to slow them down, and there's this sort of short-sightedness, I guess, in that I'm really busy, 20% of my week training someone up is going to just cost me all this time, I'm going to be even more stressed, and therefore barriers come up from internally, and support from academics is brilliant, apprenticeships are all there. We work closely with Wigan College to get our apprentices in, generally speaking, but like we talk about Manchester University, looking at placement students, and the barriers actually come from internal of our organisation and other organisations. And I think that's, for SMEs, that's a harder thing to work around.
Yep.
There's always going to be a capacity issue. PLC's got the advantage of, they've got apprenticeship levies, they've got resource that they can spare, but SMEs, who are majority of installers, they're not going to be able to have that uptake.
Okay. So now we've got a really good understanding of what that challenge is. How do we tackle it? Let's go straight in. Andy, I'm going to come to you, because obviously a big part of what you're doing with the Box project is about addressing these particular issues. So if you want to tell people more about the Box, and then maybe...
Yeah, I will. I'll just have a slight diversion. I'm going to show my age here. I've been working in digital skills for about 25 years, and this very conversation we were having when I was at the Northwest Development Agency 20 years ago, and guess what? There's still a digital skills shortage. One of the reasons for that, well, there's a number of reasons for that. One of them was concentrating on the here and now and the short term, and absolutely nobody investing 5 to 10 years down the line and getting digital skills and digital careers into schools. That just didn't happen. So what we're left with now is still 30, 40,000 unfilled digital jobs in this city alone. And the solution seems to be boot camps. Go on a 13-week boot camp, job done, that's it. It's a very blunt instrument. It does tackle short-term issues, but what I can really see a kind of similar journey going on here around green skills, or the skills that can be packaged up as green skills. Let's face it, it's plumbers, electricians, roofers, building engineers, window fitters, all of those things, but could be packaged up in a much better way around future green skills, because guess what? Young people are quite concerned about the future of the planet. So with that in mind, we had the opportunity through kind of meetings with people that we may know, Naomi Timperley, some guys from Arup, Salford University, say, okay, what can we do about this? And long story short, we came up with the Box Challenge, which is Energy House 2.0, which is based at Salford University, in kit form, in the classroom. So that young people, we can go in there and we can inspire young people around the UN SDGs. We can inspire people about the skills that they need and the thinking that they need to get into these careers. We can talk to them about really crude things, about how much you're going to earn as an installation engineer after 2 years' worth of training. But also, we've put together a kit of parts that's just really good fun. It is fantastic. It is engaging. So, again, back to digital skills. How do you get people to be web developers and designers? You get them to design and develop websites. How do you get people to be photographers? You give them a camera. So how do we get people to be green engineers and get into the green skills? Actually, why don't you just give them a model of a house and get them to make it more sustainable? Do experiments on it. Share information, make films, communicate, create communities. Get excited, get inspired about your future and about the future of the planet. It's not rocket science. So we packaged it up in something that we think is really exciting, but we need to get that into. There are 1,200 schools in Greater Manchester. At any one point, there are 450,000 people being students. Every year, 25,000 of those graduates and either goes into work or to university or whatever. If we can get 10% of that 25,000 people a year going into green jobs, then we may make a bit of an impact in it. So I'm interested in the long term. I think more people should be interested in the long term. Short term, medium term, absolutely needs doing. But unless we're investing now in the people that are coming out of schools in 5 and 10 years' time, we're still going to be having this conversation in 5 and 10 years' time. So that's the challenge that we're trying to address.
Yeah, absolutely. And there is a demo of the box just outside. So when you go and have your lunch, go and see Andy and go and see Ezra, and I'm sure they'll show you all about it. Maybe even let you have a go. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
absolutely, brilliant.
Absolutely. That's what it's there for.
Fantastic, great stuff. Desré, actually, we weren't planning on having this sort of conversation because we didn't get a chance to catch up before today, but we've just had a really good, interesting conversation in the speakers' room about your own personal journey, actually. So, actually, would you want to maybe share that with everybody?
Yes, I can do. So, I was going to be a teacher. That was the career path. My background was youth and community work. I'd done multiple gap years working in the community, worked as a teaching assistant in a junior school, worked in particular with special needs children. And while I was doing my undergraduate, and I was looking at doing a postgraduate and becoming an RE high school teacher, so teaching ethics to children, I found out about children going down mines. I attended a panel discussion during my undergraduate degree where the panel discussed the issue of conflict minerals, in particular coming from the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo, and how they were found in the laptop that I was using to write my essay. I was sitting there in my jeans and my hoodie and sleep deprived because I'm worried about the latest essay deadline, and suddenly my world just imploded because I felt complicit. As a naive consumer, I had no idea about tin, tungsten, tantalum, and gold, in particular at that point, and how that is essential for all technology, found in our mobile phones, our laptops, to our TVs, to, well, what we can think. We just know technology is everywhere. And now as the conversations move forward, we're talking about electric vehicles. We know lithium-ion, that's required for our batteries. And these materials, these minerals are mined in some of the most destabilized places around the world. And so I completely changed my career track. I did not know about procurement and supply chain, did not come up as a conversation with my careers advisor. And so I suddenly just spent the rest of my time at university researching, finding out about what exactly all of this was about. And I could not believe just the complexity of supply chain, of how a T-shirt is made, from the seed, the planting to the farming, all the way right through to end of life and disposal. And as I say, it just blew my mind. And I thought, what an incredible job to be in that. I mean, that's like, wow. There's so much incredible things that we could do there to make something really awesome. So I went and I changed. I ended up deciding to do an MBA rather than a degree in sustainability, because I knew that I needed to go in to transform business. I needed to understand business. And so I decided, because I didn't have the background, I did an executive MBA while I worked full-time, studied part-time to do that. And I worked in procurement, again, to understand procurement, to understand the pain point, what it actually meant to be a procurement and contract manager, and then transitioned. And interestingly, the job that I do now, even you start to see on LinkedIn the roles of responsible procurement, is only a very recent thing. Since actually COVID, really, are we seeing that start to transition. And so I went into something to transform it. We then had the Modern Slavery Act in 2015, I did modern slavery trainings for the organization I worked in, and everything that I did, I tried to embed sustainability. But the job that I do now didn't exist. So you can imagine just the struggle and trying to, as we say, something people can't visualize and see, something they don't know. And so to try and be a forward thinker. So I now have a job that, according to LinkedIn, is one of the most resilient in terms of, so this last, from 2022 to 23, we saw globally that there was an employment kind of slowdown. There was a restriction on employing globally. But if you had a green skill or a green job, you bucked this trend. And they're actually projecting that the green skills and the green jobs will be more resilient into the future. And I can say that I am testament to that. But also, what I find in terms of helping, as we say, young people to really see it and employers to see, every single job can be transformed to be a sustainable, to help deliver on what we need to. That's the exciting thing about it. So what I would say to, and what I do in the trainings, when, obviously I focus on procurement, but that it's this global, massive, really complex thing that seems really scary, and oh my word, what if I do the wrong thing? What if I go and, say something and, we're just terrified, which is completely understandable. But there are things that we can do, and we can do it a step at a time. Yes, we need to move fast. Yes, time is against us. But there is so much. There's a community, which we're just seeing from today is incredible. All the discussions. There's a network, there's an ecosystem. There's so many people now really striving and working towards this to plug into. And at the heart of it, it's relationships. And that's just where I, come to a point of, and that for me has been what I have loved about my job. People say, oh, procurement, isn't that boring? There's so much admin. And I'm like, no, it's people. It's internal relationships, it's external with my suppliers, and I just love it, because at the end of the day, it's picking up a phone and having a conversation with somebody. It's understanding the other point of view to then find the solution. It's the creativity. And for me, it's just, no day is the same. It is so much fun in the sense that, yes, we're tackling really complex and difficult problems, but the purpose and, to sit around table with some fantastic individuals to then solve and to find really positive, creative solutions, is what you're saying, what you've created, and the fun around that, and how it just brings life to something that can feel really quite heavy, has just been such a joy. And so I would just encourage that, as much as this can feel like a very technical and very serious, and actually it's a great way for us to do as human beings what we do best when we come together, and to solve, this is a collaborative exercise.
Yeah, absolutely. So is there more that specifically, we want to bring this down to a sort of a very regional level with regards to Manchester then, Joe? Is there more that we can be doing? There is obviously lots of activity helping to try and support this agenda within Manchester, but is there more that we can be doing, and is there a more effective way that we could maybe do this?
I think there probably is, and we have a lot of conversations with other regions, right? And that a lot of them look at Manchester with kind of green eyes, really. They're a little bit envious of the kind of cohesion that we've got in the city region. You talk about green skills. We talk about them in Greater Manchester, and obviously sort of mentioned earlier that actually a lot of them they're going to be technical. They're going to be sort of the supply chain element, the procurement elements of it as well. But actually, what we do have is a kind of focus, I suppose, that not many other regions have. So you go to the northeast, and they're talking about offshore wind, and they're talking about oil and gas, right? And they've got this big problem up there that they need to sort of solve. Go to Scotland, they're talking about hydropower, and those are green skills, of course, as well. Go to Liverpool, they're talking about carbon capture and storage, and they're talking about hydrogen and the sort of HyNet the kind of project that's being developed down there. We don't have any of that, really, in Greater Manchester. What we do have is a lot of homes that need retrofitting, a lot of transport that needs sort of decarbonising as well. So we can kind of focus a little bit better than many of these other regions, I suppose. The connectivity, I think, between the different elements, particularly in the skills landscape, is the big advantage that we've got, and it's the big thing that we need to probably do better on. Andy mentioned before that Energy House project at University of Salford is one of the best assets in the country for what it does, but how much is it linked in with the college network, for example, or the 1,000 schools that actually could, they could fill the diary of that place with showing young people around and trying to inspire as many people as possible. So it's that kind of, we've got 9 general further education colleges, 5 universities, and thousands of schools. How well are they connected within this mission and within the sort of the transition and the journey that young people take into the sort of the green workforce? If we can bring them together better, if we can make sure that certainly at our kind of convening level, I suppose, that we've got those relationships being built and being sustained all the way through the system, that actually the colleges are knocking on the door of the universities because actually they've got a group of students that would love to see this research facility or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
So there's a lot more we can do on that connectivity bit.
And I assume there is a plan for that.
There is a plan.
Excellent. Luke, to you personally, like what with your business, how are you looking at tackling the challenges that you're facing?
I suppose, in a way, we're trying to encourage electricians to slow down a little bit. In that, as I was saying to Joe before, in that we're finding now because there's such a haste to get to net zero and everyone's rushing to install more solar. And those jobs at the higher end are so well paid, and solar electrician's money is double what it was 12, 18 months ago. And the risk that we're seeing is that people who have just got their gold card as an electrician are trying to go straight on site and do full electrical installs. And because policy is changing so quickly, and fire regs changed fairly recently, electrical regs changed back in April last year, the risk is that even if the people are rushing to get to that next level, and actually needs to be a view that it's going to be a 2, 3, 5 year process, and we've got we are decarbonising a good rate, but businesses and sort of perhaps on a personal level, individuals who are trying to go into the apprenticeship route need to be aware that it's a long-term process to be operationally proficient, as Joe put it before, and that's why of course like the box project and that resource to have people understand it better and try and not be quick book, because we've got solar installers who aren't qualified electricians but are still doing the work, and so I think there needs to be an understanding of long-term view, as Andy said before, that it's not 12 months and then you've got your cards and then you can disappear off and you're good at everything. It needs to be a long-term process, and I don't think that exists. Installers are rushing to do more, apprentices are rushing, who are in the mix, are rushing to get to that level straight away, because you go from 18 grand to 60k as the solar electrician, and so that creates risks. And I think it's all well and good having more people join, but if that joint up approach of start and end isn't realised more, it'll create a lot of problems, sort of physical health and safety problems down the line. We just need to be a more joined up approach from school education, apprenticeship, and actually apprenticeships themselves. The electrician side of things, you have electrical qualification, but solar is a specialism. It's not, renewables aren't embedded into the standard curriculum in some places. So there's always going to be this deviance of who knows what. And I think until it's embedded more, it's going to be problematic.
Okay, thank you. And Desré, what about businesses themselves? How can they incorporate more sort of green skills into their sort of everyday operations to reduce their environmental impact?
I think it's what's really important, and I think what we've talked about here as well with the apprentice, and just that right now, as I say, what we've seen is that it's a more resilient job if you have a green skill. So this idea that, it's going to cost me more to invest in that, actually is the false economy. It's going to be so much more. Your business will be more resilient. You will be more empowered. You will have a workforce as well, just in terms of turnover of your own staff. there's going to be already we're seeing it play out in terms of, where the best talent, people with the skills are going to go, where the companies that are taking this seriously. And so to retain and to attract the best talent, so to provide the opportunity for skills development and growth, and to have a strategy when you're looking at your business, because as we see with the legislations that are coming through, for example, CSRD, the discussions around CSDDD, all of that is actually requiring total business transformation into every department, because every single function within your business will have a role to play in delivering what is required. And so it's about how you understand what that means for each of those departments, what skills are required, and to plug that into your learning and development programs for your staff. Because at the end, what it'll do is it will pay dividends in terms of that longevity and resilience for your business, but how your business operates, and whether it's products or services, whatever it is that you deliver. And I think that's what we're saying as well in terms of it's in every industry. Yes, we're talking about certain industries maybe where there's a stronger drive at the moment because of decarbonisation, for example, but it really is in every industry can do it. I mean, we were talking about how it's not just automotive or, transportation or energy, but interior design. So, fashion, it's everywhere. So whether you're a creative person or, in terms of fashion and painting and the arts and music sector to where we're talking about engineering skills, there's a role to be played in each of those industries and in those jobs. So I think it's something that should really be at the top of the priority list. I don't know if you want to... the diversity?
I definitely do, yeah, absolutely. Tom shared a report with me. Hi, Tom. Tom's from the BNet Zero. That the environmental sector is the second worst in the UK for diversity. So I would love to put that to you. And how do we tackle that? And also, I know you have personal experience.
Yes, so I'm dyslexic. So I'm very proudly so. And that has been something that I would only say is come really to the fore in the last few years. I know we don't have a lot of time left too, but I will just say, if you're really interested in finding out about neurodiversity, Made by Dyslexia is a fantastic organisation. I highly recommend looking into them. They launched a campaign with LinkedIn to actually add dyslexic thinking as a skill on your LinkedIn profile. Richard Branson launched it. It was all on Good Morning Britain last year. Highly recommend looking into all of that. But in terms of what we're talking about here and the skill set, and I know we were talking as well, is that dyslexic thinking and neurodiversity as a spectrum is a wealth of skill that is sitting there and not being tapped into right now. And that's exactly what we need for solving the problems that we're facing, these really complex problems and the problems that we know we're going to come in as we transition. So from my perspective, and what I can say is that I really encourage everybody to read up and to understand, because I think you had a really great statistic of how many people...
Yeah, it's not a great statistic, but we work with kids in autism, and 71% of people with autism will remain unemployed all their life. And any of you know any autistic people, look at the incredible skills and talents that they have, and it's such a wasted pool of talent. But the other thing I would say is, in Greater Manchester, and certainly in Manchester, there is a great diversity economy. There's a number of organisations, Diverse and Equal, ourselves at DISC, working on diversity from the grassroots and education level up. And again, it would be nice to think there's no quick fix on that, but build diversity in from the ground up in schools and then through skills and careers advice, then you'll get it in the industry, I would say.
Yeah, and the statistic I was thinking was about actually how, I think it's 1 in 8 or something there, of us is in the population is neurodiverse. And so, to me, I think it's a great in terms of that, we're not alone. And so if anybody, and I say that, from one neurodiverse person to somebody else who might be struggling or recently diagnosed, because we're seeing it diagnosed much later and now that we're a lot more awareness around it. But for me, I see it as a really positive thing that we are here, we're part of the mix. We have something really incredible to offer. And yes, as we say, that statistic of the 70 is really, that's just horrendous. Yeah. And to say that, that this hidden hidden, population, part of the population, really, that can be part and brought into this conversation, that we're not forgotten as we transition and we do the transition and the skills
And again, it's selling the entry points. You can, you can get in at 16, you can get in at 18 through apprenticeships, you can go all the way through and, get a PhD and get a fantastic job to really solve that. But that's all part of the mix. So it's packaging it up. It's selling it, as a real kind of robust, watertight career option for everybody in the city.
Fantastic. Thank you. I've done a rubbish job at chairing and not left any chance for any time for anybody to ask any questions from the audience, and I'm very aware that it is lunchtime, so everyone will be hungry. So I'm sure that the panel will be sticking around, so do please go and ask any more questions in the lunch break. But for now, if you would just give them a round of applause for me, please.
Thanks, Anne. Another inspiring panel, really amazing. So I'm sure everybody's buzzing. It's been a great morning. We've got lunch now, so please do visit the stand, have a play with Andy's box. That came out wrong.